Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have another Mattel Jurassic World Dominion set to take a look at. We've got another set of minis, and this is another of the on-the-go Danger sets. This one is actually the Mega version, and as you can see, we've got kind of like a really cool, sort of like a, almost looks like it'd be a treasure or something that we found here, and it's really neat the way that they've constructed the packaging for this one. They've been doing a lot of really cool stuff with the minifigure line as of late, and this is definitely just another addition to the many cool things they've done with it. But as you can see here, as far as what's contained within, you can see a whole bunch of stuff in here that is, again, within this very, very cool Mega on-the-go Dinosaur Danger set. So let's go ahead, pop this open, and see what's inside. So once we pop the ties off of the side, we open it up. First of all, on the inside, you can see we've got like some instructions or something right there. But you can also see that we have a whole bunch of stuff contained within. Looks like we've got even more fence, which we have quite a bit of that already. We've got some minis right there. We've got some other stuff right here. And even more minis contained down here in the bottom. If we pull all of those out, you can see that we again have quite a few figures here. Some of which we've had before, some of which we have not. So definitely excited to see what's in here. Some of which we have had, it looks like all of which we have had sculpt-wise. I don't see anything that's a new species in here at all. It's all repaints as far as I can tell. But oh, we've got a new version of the Lystrosaurus in here, which is really exciting. I think we've only ever had this one version, which looks to also be in here. But definitely some fun stuff. So let's pop each one of these open. In this first set, we've got quite a few pieces here that I imagine I'm going to have to put together, so I'll put that together quickly. So I've sort of constructed everything the way that the box shows me, but there's definitely a lot of interchangeable parts here where you can just mix and match so much stuff throughout this entire thing, giving you just tons of options as far as however you would like to kind of create this. But then we're going to bring in each and every one of the different dinosaurs that we have. And first of all, we've got ourselves an Atrociraptor. I don't remember that Atrociraptor prior. We've got Velociraptor Blue, because why not? We always get another Velociraptor Blue. We also have a brown Velociraptor, which is a pretty cool looking version. We've got a Pteranodon, which might be a new figure, potentially. I'm not sure. We've got ourselves a Atrociraptor Ghost. We also have Atrociraptor Panthera. And then I have no idea who this Atrociraptor is meant to be, as it's kind of a pinkish version. So that's just a little bit confusing. Then over here we have our classic Giganotosaurus that we've had so many times. Wow, actually, so many times until now. This one's definitely different because it doesn't have an articulated jaw. I tried to close the mouth thinking it was an articulated jaw, but it is not. Then we've also got ourselves the Theropod, which we have had before. Looks as though one of our Atrociraptors died somewhere in here. We've got ourselves a T-Rex right there, Rexy, who fell on her face, as well as an Iguanodon there, which looks to be pretty nice. And then we have just one more little pack of figures here. Kind of weird how they put a bunch in like a plastic thing and then just kind of wrap the last few up like this. But in this set of figures, we've got ourselves a Triceratops. That's definitely a new paint variant. We also have the more standard paint variant that we've had quite a few times. We also have our Lystrosaurus and then another Lystrosaurus. So quite a bit included with this set, kind of a lot to get through, so let's jump straight to a closer look at everything right now. So the saying is go big or go home, so we'll go big straight away with the biggest mini in the package, as we've got ourselves the Giganotosaurus, and it doesn't look too different from the previously released Giganotosaurus figures. However, like I said earlier in the review, one thing that is very notable about this one is the lack of an articulated jaw, which does make it quite different from the previously released minifigure Giganotosaurus figures. Outside of that, though, the sculpt does look really nice on this Giganotosaurus. We definitely have some nice paint apps on this one, as we have that dark green running along the top of the Giganotosaurus that kind of stripes and designs down, and then of course the lighter green for the majority of the figure. But that's really about it as far as coloration goes, because we don't have eye paint. Of course we don't have paint for the inside of the mouth. That's just something that you don't ever usually get when it comes to Mattel minis. But it looks okay, you know, it's not a bad figure, and it's fun to have different variants, especially when you're like me and you've purchased so many minis already, it is nice to have one that's just a little bit different like this one here with, again, kind of a stagnant jaw, no articulation in that area, no articulation at all as far as the figure goes, but still a pretty fun Giganotosaurus as far as a mini goes, and there's definitely a lot of figures in here that we did see in Dominion as far as species go. So of course the one you would definitely want would be the Giganotosaurus, and that's absolutely a gorgeous minifigure for sure, just not too far off from the original release. Then we've got this Theropod, which, is definitely different from the mainline release, but I believe we have reviewed this one in the past because this, I think, was in a different set. It might have been actually in the original On The Go Danger set, the non-mega version, because I do remember this Theropod before, but it is still a really cool version. I like the fact that the mouth is kind of open, looking quite ferocious. We've got very, very nice looking sculpt and detail through the entire figure. No specific nail paint or anything, which you would like to see on a Theropod, but it doesn't look bad. There's not really much as far as paintwork in this one either, because you can see we don't have any eye paint or anything. We basically just have a dark blue for the body, and then a little area of red that kind of runs along the spinal column briefly. And that's it. There's just nothing else going on with the Theropod at all as far as coloration goes. But like I said, I'm pretty certain we have reviewed this one already in the past, but it is still a pretty cool alternate variant of the Theropod. Then we've got the Triceratops, which to me looks to be exactly the same Triceratops we've had a bunch of times already, even in the main line of minis. But of course, it's missing eye paint for some reason. This set absolutely hates eye paint. You can see, though, that we have that kind of standard greenish tone, and we have some nice designing here along the back with a nice brown. And I am very pleased to see that the brown runs so far out onto the tail, which definitely helps to make the figure look nicer, but the lack of eye paint is absolutely a downside. There's also a nice speckling to this one as well, with that same similar brown, it looks like, so there's a lot of brown speckles through the entire figure, but a gorgeous looking sculpt for sure, probably the best Mattel mini Triceratops that I've ever seen. But, not a bad paint job, just, it really needed eye paint. But then we also have another Triceratops, and this one is definitely a new paint variant. Same sculpt, of course, but really nice paint. And it's almost like a mirror image of the other Triceratops, except for instead of the greenish tone, we have a brown, and instead of the variation of brown, we have a different variation of brown, but it kind of designs the same way here along the back and runs pretty much the entire length of the figure, just like we saw on the opposing one. We yet again don't have eye paint, but we do have a speckling throughout, so very, very similar as far as the other one goes, and you can see how similar. Again, they look honestly like the design here along the back is pretty much identical, just totally different tones, although the tail looks like it might be slightly curved a little bit of a different way, but I think it might just potentially be warped, because you can see outside of that the sculpt is definitely the same between these two Triceratops, but still pretty cool, and it's awesome to have a different variant of the Triceratops. I think that might be the first time we've had a different variant in the Dominion line. We've also got this random Atrociraptor that doesn't want to focus, that has kind of like a pinkish tone to it, and then sort of like an orange, like a red-orange running along the back, and some speckling to it, and that's all we have for this one. This, I don't know who is supposed to be. Like, I have absolutely no clue which Atrociraptor this one was meant to be, outside of just being another random paint variant from Mattel. Certainly not the best one, but it is the same sculpt that we've had every single time we've had an Atrociraptor. We have not had any type of an alternate sculpt in any of the Atrociraptor figures so far. And again, it's probably the least appealing, I would say, out of all the Atrociraptors we've had from Mattel so far. But when it comes to one of the most appealing, in my opinion anyway, I really like this one. We've got a beautiful orangish tone, and then we also have some brown that kind of runs and designs along the back. Not exactly the correct orangish tone to be Atrociraptor Tiger, but I feel like it fairly nicely sort of resembles Atrociraptor Tiger, so that may be who we were trying to create. This one as well has a speckling throughout, no eye paint. I don't think a single figure has eye paint in this entire set, but that's definitely a nice version of the mini Atrociraptor. I really quite like that one. Then we've also got Ghost, which we have reviewed Ghost in the past. We have had Ghost in different sets. I don't know if this one's any different. It kind of looks like it might be slightly different as far as the design goes, but it's been a little while since I had taken a look at my mini version of Atrociraptor Ghost. It's an okay figure, just nothing great. The lack of eye paint on these figures really hurts them, I feel like. They could have looked so much better if they just simply had eye paint, and the figures are really, really basic to begin with when it comes to paint application, as we don't have like painted nails, no really varying tones of color at all. But eye paint is like that one thing that you could at least give us, and for some reason these minis just don't have it, but it's still an okay looking Atrociraptor. And then we've also got Panthera, which looks okay, again, pretty much just like the previously released versions of this Atrociraptor did. We basically have like this mustard yellowish brown type color, and then we have this darker brown that kind of splotches and stripes down from the neck. And then we have a splotchy speckling, I guess you could say, through the course of the figure with almost looks like a dark blue. But that's really about it. Yet again, no eye paint or anything like that. Then we've got Velociraptor Blue, which looks really awkward without eye paint if my camera would focus on it. Look how weird the eye looks now that it just has the blue stripe through it and no actual eye paint. But again, this is the same sculpt as far as the Velociraptors go that we've had quite a few times already. And we basically only have a gray and then the blue stripe, which is also pretty similar to the previously released versions. No eye paint, and yes, there is a speckling on this one. It's not quite as abundant as I saw in quite a few of the Atrociraptors, but it is there. However, we do have another Velociraptor, and this one I think is a little bit more exciting, as we have a nice brownish tone and then some dark brown stripes that run along the back. It would have been nice to have those run a little further out, because like some of these figures are just so lackluster when it comes to paint apps, because again, we don't have eye paint like we haven't had the entire time, but it could have made up for it with a little bit more striping out onto the tail. Definitely would have made the figure look a little nicer. I don't even really see a speckling on this one, maybe slightly, but nothing like we saw on the other ones. It's still a pretty nice looking raptor, almost sort of reminds me of a Jurassic Park version, slightly, but it definitely, again, needed eye paint. And at this point, I think you're going to hear me say that a lot, because every single figure in here needed it. We also have the Pteranodon, which looks to be the same sculpt as previously released. We have a very dark brown for this one, kind of a splotchy, lighter brown that runs along the spinal column. And yet again, that's it. No other coloration for the figure at all. There's just nothing. So these minis in this set are really as bare bones as it gets. And I think the only thing left to do from here to make it even cheaper would be to just give us no paint application on the minis at all, because these really have, again, the least amount of paint apps I think I've seen from any of the minis so far. I know there have been a few sets that had similar minis like this that had, lack of eye paint and stuff, but I always felt like there was like at least one or two potentially in the sets that did have some eye paint, but this set absolutely has none. We've also got ourselves the Iguanodon, which, if my camera would focus, there we go, you can see has a nice light green, as well as a really cool looking blue speckling throughout. This one has a very abundant speckling, and then you can also see that we have this creamy color that kind of stripes and designs along the back, down into the tail a ways, but not all the way. Gorgeous looking sculpt yet again, but yet again, lackluster paint apps. This one does look better than I think most of them do, though, because it at least has like that really cool kind of flashy speckling throughout. I would say probably my favorite of the set so far. Then we've got ourselves the Lystrosaurus, and this Lystrosaurus looks pretty much the same as the previously released versions, with the green and then the kind of darker green. Not so darker, but a little bit of a darker green that kind of designs around the top here. We do have kind of like a random splotch of white or something, but there's also kind of like some brown splotches on this one, kind of like speckling. So it's weird that we have different colors there as far as that speckling goes. But that is a phenomenal looking sculpted figure. And now that I have so many of these, I'm definitely going to repaint one, because I have so many of this one specifically. I see no reason not to. Then we have the first variant of the Lystrosaurus to enter my collection as far as the Mattel minis go, as we have a nice brown for this one, and then kind of like a light gray that designs and splotches here along the back of the figure. No coloration outside of that, but it is still a pretty cool looking version. The sculpt, of course, is the same as the previously released version. There's just no difference as far as the sculpt goes, but still pretty cool to finally have a different paint variant of the Lystrosaurus, one that actually looks pretty nice. And we also have, of course, Rexy, but yet again, even Rexy has been excluded from the eye paint club. We also have had this sculpt in the past, and coloration-wise, we basically just have a brown and then a dark blackish tone that kind of runs along the back of Rexy. It does look really cool. Of course, it could have looked a lot better if we had like painted teeth, painted nails, eye paint, things like that, but it's still a pretty darn nice looking figure, and this is almost like that classic Rex breaking out of the paddock type of a look and roar and stuff, so I of course love that, but it definitely, again, is really lackluster in the paint app department, like every single figure in this set was. And then as far as the extras go, you've got very similar to other previously released sets, I think potentially even these On the Go Danger sets, the previous one. You have a nice earthy area that is painted green, and then you can see that we have footprints, and we actually have different footprints throughout. You can see that we have like stones and everything in there. And there's also a nice tree that's a darker green, almost like some sort of a pine tree. And what's cool about that is you could take the tree out and then you could take it and put it in different things like this. You can see we have like little holes up on here that you can put your tree into. So it is interchangeable. You can move it around. This was actually the top of the packaging. So this does go with the set itself. And you can see we have just kind of like a really rocky area up here and about 14 million pegs running along the top. We also have 2 trees up here on the top because there are 3 trees altogether included in this set. We also have this other earthy area which looks fairly similar to the first one we had taken a look at, but definitely a little bit different as far as the shape goes. This one looks like a boot pretty much, but the same type of texturing, same footprints, all of that stuff. So it's not too different from the other one. Then you've also got this area which has another kind of like a little rocky formation here that you could put next to the other one we were just taking a look at. You also have a ramp here which actually has some tire tracks running up along it, which is definitely pretty cool. And you can see that as well. It has a nice rocky type of a look to it, kind of a muddy type of a look on the top. Totally different coloration, as we have a light brown for this piece and then a darker brown for that piece. And then you also have another one of those that kind of connects to the part here that we were looking at. This part here, you just basically slide it under like that and then just set it there. And the final piece to the puzzle are a whole bunch of pieces of the fence, but we have reviewed the fence in the past, and in fact, if you got the advent calendar, you actually got a ton of the fence, as well as the Jurassic Park gates. So now that you get this set, you'll have even more pieces of the fence to include in your collection, and continue to make more paddocks. You actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces of fence this time around, so lots more to create more paddocks for your Jurassic Park. Then when it comes to your fence, to connect them, you basically just snap them together like that, and you can articulate the fence to kind of move it so that you can kind of make like an actual paddock and close it up, or you can just have it, run along the outer edge here as just basically a big fence. And then of course these are all perfect to go with the previously released fence from any of the other collections. And in fact, the first On the Go set, there was also fence included in that, and then again in the advent calendar. So at this point, if you've been, I can't get that on there, if you've been collecting the fence as you go in the different mini sets as you go, you should have quite a bit of fence for your collection now. So there we go, we have our entire fence kind of put together to now create kind of like a paddock for your figures. And since everything that's in here has pretty much been released already in the past in some form or another, like sculpt-wise, we've had all of these dinosaurs already. There are just a few new paint variants in this set, and we've had the fence in the past. Pretty much the only thing that is new are a few of these pieces back here, but it's pretty obvious as far as what the size is, so I don't feel like we need to waste any time with sizes or comparisons or anything like that, because if you're a collector of the minifigure line, by now you've definitely got a pretty good idea as far as the size of pretty much everything in this set, I would think. So this brand new Mega On The Go Dinosaur Danger set is pretty cool, but at the same time, kind of lackluster. It's cool by the standards of older Mattel minis, because if you go back to the older Mattel minis when we were just getting dinosaurs in packs at Walmart, and that's pretty much it, and then you look at this set, this is a lot better than that, because we have a ton of minis. First of all, like, there's a lot included in this set as far as different species and stuff goes, but you also have the addition of the fence, you also have the addition of the extra earthy areas and stuff, so there's a lot more as far as playability goes with this set, and also display options. But if you look at it from like the type of standpoint of the sets we've been getting from Mattel lately with minis, it's a little bit lackluster, just because a large majority of this is all basically repacks, with the only really redeeming factor of this set, in my opinion, being the new repaints that we have here. And a lot of the repaints, in fact, every figure here, they're all lackluster when it comes to the paint apps, because When it comes to the minis, I don't really expect much, but at the very least, I would like eye paint for the figures, but that's one thing that we have skipped out on with every single mini in this set. Not a single figure in here has any type of eye paint on them. They do have some pretty cool paint jobs overall, like really nice tones of color and kind of like somewhat flashy designs for some of them, but at the same time, they're all quite lazily done because, again, there's just a serious lack of effort put into the paint applications of these figures. And I get that it's kind of a budget set, so they sort of do it in a way where they can justify the price for, like, I forget what this was, like $20, $30, something like that. As a whole, though, again, being a budget set with a lot included, it's pretty fun, especially if you haven't really purchased too many of the minis, or if you don't have any of the fence, or anything like that. This is definitely a fun set to pick up, but if you've been collecting the minis the entire time, it's kind of 50-50, because you get some kind of fun repaints, but a large majority of this, it's all repacks. So if you are interested in this, though, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase this on Big Bad Toy Store, because that's where I purchased mine. So make sure you check down in the description, go grab yourself this set from Big Bad Toy Store, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.